Perfect. We are live, Facebook and YouTube. Welcome to Face University tonight. This will be our last one for the year, so thanks for tuning in with us. Our topic today is going to be on supporting students during times of uncertainty. So let me share my screen to get us started. The Denver Children's Advocacy Center, Kat Lovejoy, is here with us today. She'll be sharing this information, and you will be welcome to ask questions throughout if you're here with us, or if you're watching the stream in the chat. We will have interpretation, so I'm just going to pause and let people know if you need interpretation on the Zoom channel. We have an interpretation globe if you're on your computer, and you'll be able to choose from Vietnamese and Spanish is coming. They're not quite here yet. We will let you know when they arrive. If you're on your phone, you're going to click the three dots. You'll scroll to interpretation and you'll pick your language channel. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share of Vietnamese. Can you introduce that for our Vietnamese speakers? Thanks.
Thank you. Xin chào quý vị, tôi là Thanh, là một phiên dịch viên tiếng Việt sẽ phục vụ cho quý vị ngày hôm nay. Xin cảm ơn quý vị.
All right. So Vietnamese channel is now open if you plan to use that, and we'll get started. So also some other quick housekeeping. We encourage you to participate. You are welcome to come off mute. You can type into the chat. You can share reactions. Unfortunately, if you're on the live stream, the chat is the only one, but we will be watching and looking for your questions if you have any. This is presented by the Family and Community Engagement Department at Denver Public Schools. When families and communities thrive, every learner thrives. When we are in this space, just remember to have compassion for yourself. Lean into discomfort or uncomfortable topics are welcome. We're here to learn, and respect the lived experiences and cultures of others. If you are online, definitely withhold personally identifiable information. We don't want any birthdays, addresses coming out, especially when we are live on social media. All right, so I'm going to let Kat Lovejoy take it away. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Let me share my screen real quick. You just give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Cool. Yeah, so as Jasmine mentioned, my name is Kat. I work at Denver Children's Advocacy Center, and we're here, or I am here tonight, just to talk a little bit about how support for kiddos can be really helpful in times of stress or transition. So I'm going to jump in real quick. We will focus on some sources of stress for kids, and then we'll talk about more importantly, how we can support kiddos. And yes, I'm happy to answer any questions in chat, or if anyone comes up off mute, or in a UL, let me know if there's any online questions as well. Cool. Okay, before we start, I am required to share what we do at Denver Children's Advocacy Center. Just in case there's anyone in the community who might need our services. We are the Children's Advocacy Center for Denver County. That means that when there is a case of abuse or neglect, we investigate that in Denver County. The idea here is that instead of kids going to the police officer or the police station and talking about what has happened to them, trying to prove what has happened to them, usually telling their story about 9 times, they come to us instead. We can see our little yellow houses are on 22nd and Federal. And we do what's called an interview, where we ask the kiddo questions in order to investigate what happened to them, but also to make sure that it fits their needs developmentally. We ask 3-year-olds questions different than 17-year-olds. So that's a big piece of the model for us. All of those resources, everything we do in this investigation is to protect the kiddo and the non-offending family. It's not about getting anyone in trouble, it's about protection. And a lot of people aren't aware, but for immigrants, these are resources that are for them as well. Children, whether they are documented or immigrants or not, have the right to be protected if something unsafe is happening to them, whether that be within the family or the community or elsewhere. So those are our main services. We also provide therapy to kids who've been through any other sorts of trauma, such as domestic violence, immigration, bullying. We serve kids who are ages 3 to 17 in Spanish and English. These services have no cost for the families, regardless of immigration status, regardless of whether or not they have insurance. Families who have a private insurance, we may need to refer out for, but if there is no insurance or they have Medicaid, there will be no cost to that family. Unfortunately, at this time, we're only able to provide those services to Spanish and English speaking kiddos. We will have interpretation for interviews. We will have interpretation over a phone line if families have questions for us. We can even do interpretation to kind of do an assessment to see where the kiddo's at and how they're doing. But if the child needs a different language than Spanish or English in therapy, then we will tend to refer to an organization that has therapists that speak their home language, just because that's a bit more helpful for the family at that point. That's a lot of information. I will share my contact information at the end of the presentation in case families have any other questions. I'll also pause here in case there are questions now. Doesn't look like it. Okay, cool. Good job. First slide done. Okay, so we're just going to talk a little bit about what stress looks like for kids. Unfortunately, kids are not sheltered from stress either, and we're going to talk about how while that can be hard for them and for families, it's also a good thing. Kids learning how to manage stress is really important, especially as they're growing older. And as adults, if we know how to help those kids manage that stress or feel supported through that stress, they're going to be able to overcome it better. So some general causes of stress in kids are family tension or stress. This could be anything from having a big move, or maybe a parent lost a job, maybe money's tight. Doesn't necessarily mean that the family is harming a child, but we all go through stressful times as families, and that kids can feel that. So family stress or tension is a big one. School and grades is a cause of stress. Friendships. I was thinking about this week, and I was thinking about how friendships can be a cause of stress for me as an adult as well. So I think it makes sense that kids learning how to share and navigate relationships and friendships, whether they be healthy or not, can definitely be a source of stress for kiddos. Changes or transitions, anything from maybe moving home to maybe parents are separated, even just changing schools, going from middle to high school, that's going to cause a stress for kids. As kids get older, having more responsibilities causes stress, as well as they enter puberty, changes in their body and their brain and their hormones. Those are big pieces of stress as well. A lot of times, because kids, as they're going through puberty, become more vulnerable to stress, they may have more negative thoughts about themselves or insecurity. And a lot of that has to do with their brain being so poised to grow. It's also very poised to be more sensitive to negativity, and a big reason why we need to support kiddos as we walk through that. And then last one, community or environmental tension. So this could be anything from community violence, something happening on the news, anything that the kiddo might hear through their parents or see on social media that is causing stress for an adult may also be stressful for a kiddo too. It's also important to remember that these are pretty general. Different identities of kiddos are going to have different levels of these stressors, or even different stressors altogether. So an immigrant kid may struggle more with friendships because they come from a different culture at home than they are at school. So they're still learning there's another piece of that relationship that they have to learn how to navigate, which could be more stressful. LGBTQ kids, similar. They may have to go through some experiences at school or even hear about things on the news that might make them feel less safe, right? So those kiddos, differing identities, might feel more stress than others, but these are the main areas in which kiddos are going to be experiencing stress, whether that be in elementary school, middle school, or high school. Questions there? Cool. Okay. It's important, as I mentioned before, to talk about the types of stress. The reason for this is because stress is not always negative. Stress can help us accomplish things. Stress is a natural part of life, of being an adult and or a human. So as we learn how to identify stress and walk through stress, it actually can positively impact our lives. And so we want to make sure we define different types of stress so that we can help families support kids at any point at which a kid is feeling any sort of stress, but also so we can start to see how stress isn't always a bad thing, and it's normal for us to all be able to walk through it together as a family. So there's 3 types of stress. Type number 1 is positive stress. This is the kind of stress that we have when we have to, maybe we have a soccer game that we want to play really well in, or maybe we have a test we're nervous about doing well in, where we have some stress around that. I had some stress finishing this presentation, right? So that stress is positive stress because it motivates me to get something done. I still have symptoms of stress. My heart might beat a little faster. I might feel more nervous. I might have to practice taking deep breaths. I'm still having the symptoms of stress, but it's a positive stress that helps me finish or do what I need to do. And then once I've finished or satisfied that need or done what I need to do, that stress goes away. So that's positive stress. Kids are definitely feeling this at school, right? With their friends, when they have school projects, when they have a big game coming up, any of the above. We just want to be mindful of if that stress goes away after the stressor is over. Okay, that's positive stress. Tolerable stress is the reason that we have this rubber band stretching in the image, right? So we, as the therapists at DCAC, think of tolerable stress as it's stretching me a little more. I'm having more stress that's not completely positive. What that means is when we stretch a rubber band too far, you can see that it starts to crack. It can still go back to its original shape, but it's got some cracks in it. It's the same for us. When we are going through tolerable stress, the level of the cortisol, the hormone in our body that helps us to act quicker and think faster to get something done or be safe, is higher in our bodies. And if it's too high for too long, we're actually kind of poisoning our body. Our heartbeat's beating too fast for too long. We're not taking deep breaths for too long. We may not be eating well, or maybe eating not enough or too much. So that stress, if it's tolerable, is going to start causing some damage to our bodies and minds, but we can overcome it and come back to our original state and be okay once that stressor is gone. Toxic stress is more like when that rubber band is stretched so far and so fast or for such a long period of time that it snaps. So while it can still get back to its original state, it needs extra support to do so. These are things like abuse, neglect, long-term exposure to one stressor over and over again. The reason this becomes toxic is for 3 reasons. 1, levels of cortisol are very high in our bodies for a long period of time. 2, my brain actually changes. It turns off the part of me that wants to solve problems and think and process and communicate. All my brain and body want to do are survive. That stress has changed that. So my brain isn't functioning as it needs to. And 3, toxic stress is always defined as toxic when there's an absence of support from a parent or a caregiver or a teacher or an aunt or an uncle, right? A lot of times, if a stress is toxic and may have normally broken that rubber band, it's the support of a caregiver that moves that stress from toxic up to tolerable, which means it's still causing me stress, but it's not having the effect that it would without that support. And that's kind of what we want to focus on today. Everything we're talking about is how we can help kids know that even though we're walking through hard things, we still have support. It's the idea of, in the United States, we have this saying where 1 stick is really easy to break. 2 sticks, it's much harder to break both. If you have 3 sticks, it's even harder to break all of them. So the more support a kid has, the less likely it is that that stress is going to take a toll that could be more harmful to them. I'm going to pause here for questions, if we have any. Cool. All right. So, before we move on to this part, I always try to be really clear about stress. It is never a parent's fault necessarily that a kiddo is going through stress. It's never a kid's fault necessarily that they're going through stress, whether that be positive, tolerable, or toxic. A lot of the stresses that we go through, and especially with those varying identities, have to do with the systems and the society that we live in. And while it may be more stressful for certain kids, this isn't about blaming anyone. It's about learning how to come alongside them to help them overcome those stressors, okay? I think the funny thing about stress is that it's supposed to be positive, and then we invent ways to make it toxic or tolerable. And the great news about that is that we as parents get to, or caregivers get to come alongside kids and diminish that stress. So the two ways we can do that are one, through environment. We'll do a real quick little run through of what structuring the environment could look like to help kids feel more support. And then two is communication. Quickly, I'm going to go through a lot of information here. The reason for that is one, I want families to have options on what feels like a good fit for them. One thing might not feel like it's a good time or place to try. Another thing might feel perfect. I can't always predict what kids are going to, or I'm sorry, what families need. And so I try and give as much information as I can. The expectation is not that we take this home and do everything tonight. It is that you pick one or two things that feel like a good fit and go from there. Okay? Environment. The idea behind supporting kids with environment is to try to give them enough structure and relief, we'll use the word relief, to help them relieve stress on a regular basis. So when I say structure, I'm talking about routines. Routines do not, especially when we're talking about summertime, don't have to be, I know what I'm doing in every hour, every minute of the day, right? But it helps to have a routine that helps kids know what comes next. I know what I do on Monday. I know what I do on Tuesday. I know that Wednesday I don't have anything, right? Or I know that in the summertime, I wake up at 9 every day, and then I eat breakfast, and then I have some unstructured playtime, but I know what time to wake up. This helps kids start to level their stress level because they can predict what's going to happen. That structure helps them feel more safe. Super important, especially when they are older, but at any point, is that families work together to make this schedule or this routine. What do kids want to do this summer? What are they excited about doing this summer? What can we put in their routines for that? Brushing your teeth is a non-negotiable. Playing outside versus maybe one day you did a movie day, those can be more flexible, right? So it's not so much about making sure that we're accomplishing everything we have to in a day. It's more about making that day predictable and giving kids tools to help them feel somewhat productive. Okay. When we're doing those routines, balance is super important. If throughout the week we're practicing things like using our mind and are moving our body and having time to connect or rest emotionally and then socially, the better. This is kind of like we're building in some ways to diminish stress just on a regular basis. Socially, emotionally, those are things that help increase hormones of connection, even dopamine, which makes our body feel good. And if we do that on a regular basis, kids are already going to have a lower level of stress. Rituals and celebrations for me, this is about how are we going to have fun as a family? How are we going to laugh as a family? How are we going to feel that connection? So maybe we have a weekly schedule. On Wednesdays, the kids play soccer. On Fridays, we do a movie night. But we also know that we have 3 birthdays this summer, and we're going to make some big plans for the birthdays this summer. Or we also know that we're going to take a family vacation this summer, or there's a big holiday coming up this summer. And those are times for us to really build in family celebration time. Laughter decreases cortisol, right? So the more we can include those things like that, the better. I'm going to give you some examples of these. Hopefully it's helpful. I also included pictures of my family just for fun. So this is me with my sister and brother-in-law and my niece and nephews. Their routines may look something like, in the morning we wake up at 9 a.m., we eat breakfast, then we get to play outside. After we play outside, we clean our room. Then we get to watch a show. After the show, it's about lunchtime. Then we have free time. We get to pick what we're going to do. We don't necessarily have to be outside, but we can. Then we all get our own quiet rest time. Quiet rest time is very helpful for diminishing stress for kiddos, right? Then we have dinner. After dinner, we always have family time. Then, of course, a non-negotiable most of the time is that we all take a bath or a shower, and then we go to bed at 8, right? You'll notice that I don't have exact time slots here. Because again, my goal isn't that my niece and nephews or the kids check boxes off or get a bunch of things done. The goal is that they just have some structure throughout their day. You'll also notice that I tried to build into this schedule some balance, right? I've got some time outside, I've got some quiet time, I've got reading time. So we already have movement of our body, we have using our mind, Quiet time is a really great time to emotionally regulate. We have connection with family time. That's built into my routine. But we also get to we all have our soccer team, our soccer games on Wednesdays. We cook dinner on Friday nights and watch a movie. One time a month, we do a play date. And then a big thing coming up this summer is summer camp, right? So these are ways that kids can get a lot of movement, a lot of social time, and they're maybe not in the daily every day, but they are spread out throughout the week or the summer. Rituals, again, we mentioned this already, having a cooking or movie night, birthdays, 4th of July, maybe we go to Jazz in the Park every Sunday, and then we have a family vacation planned. Again, the idea here is not to have a perfect schedule. It's just to try and build in some ways that we can connect and relieve stress as a family. I used a senior picture of myself in this, so if anyone has any comments about what I looked like when I was 18, feel free to put them in the chat. For teens, it's really important that they kind of, one, have more flexibility, and two, build this out more themselves. We're gonna have some non-negotiables still. Maybe we all are still gonna wake up at 9 or 10. It's just healthier for all of us. And then we can do breakfast, do a workout, chat with my friends on Instagram. Then I eat lunch. I have work on Mondays and Wednesdays. Then I eat dinner. I can have some downtime, watch TV or read or journal, and then I'm in bed by 10 o'clock. We can still guide kids here, and it helps them to be able to build what's important to them, especially as teens, into this as well. Keep in mind that because teens are growing and changing, they may need more sleep and rest time in between those responsibilities that they have. Again, we have more balance built into the routine. So getting enough sleep, making sure I'm eating enough, I work out, I have some connection with my friends, right? I'm reading and journaling, having some time to exercise and use my mind or process my emotions. And then we do Zumba on Tuesday mornings as well, right? So you can work it into the day, also the week. Rituals are very similar. I have some friends graduating this summer. I can go to graduation parties, go to some friends' birthdays. Maybe I want to plan some pool days with my friends. These are, again, to me, I always think of them as celebrations, as ways that I can kind of have extra fun, laugh more to help relieve stress and get more connection. That was a lot, talked a lot. Questions here? I think a great thing to do is also work in cultural holidays, religious holidays, anything that's important to your family, whether that be, in Mexico, we'll celebrate Dia de Independencia, so Independence Day in September. Then here in the United States, we have Independence Day on July 4th. I feel like there's maybe a Vietnamese holiday in the summertime, but I forgot which one it is. So that one might be really great to practice as well. Any value or ritual that's important to your family is really, really great. All right, no questions? Cool. All right. To me, the communication piece is most important. Again, if the environment piece or setting up routines and rituals is more helpful, just stick with that. These are things we can do in the moment to help kids know we support them, remembering that support is what moves stress to become more positive and tolerable, right? So when we're communicating, the most important thing that we can do is show empathy, which basically means putting myself in my child's shoes or thinking about what it feels like for my child as they're walking through whatever they're walking through. It requires listening and recognizing, usually naming what they might be feeling. So we start with listening without judgment. When I say listening without judgment, I tend to think about when my niece tells me she's sad and I want to say, oh, don't be sad. But I want her to know that it's okay to be sad. It's normal to be sad. So instead of saying don't be sad, I'm going to just listen and not judge that emotion. I will have some feedback on that emotion, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I'm not going to state a judgment on it. Or if they're angry, well, calm down. You don't need to be angry, right? It's okay to be angry. I'm not going to judge that. I'm just listening. So step number one, which is usually the hardest for us adults who want our kids or family or kids in our family to do well and succeed, is to listen without giving advice. That's step number one. We can still interact though, and it's really important. And actually, there's a really cool brain science around this, to express the feelings that we hear. So if my niece is saying that she's sad because her friend at school said something mean to her, I can listen and then engage without judging. So I can say, I hear you saying that you're feeling sad because your friend did something unkind. I'm not judging that, but I'm repeating back to her what she just said to me so she knows that I heard it, right? The crazy thing about brain science is that even just me saying you are sad begins to calm down the brain. Even if I said to myself, there's no one in this room right now, but I was feeling nervous and I said to myself, I'm feeling nervous, my brain's going to start realizing, oh, this is a normal reaction. I'm just feeling nervous and start calming down. So even though we may not be offering a solution, right, we are helping that kiddo calm down just by saying, oh, I hear you saying that you're sad or you're angry, right? Some other examples are, I hear that you're feeling nervous about your school project, or I hear that what she said made you feel frustrated. And I put a question mark there because it's okay to check in with kiddos. Like, if I say, I hear that you're feeling frustrated, is that right? Let kids correct us if we don't get it right the first time. Okay? You can even just repeat what they're saying. So you are saying this. Okay? So even that's to me, that's the most important part because even in just naming those emotions, we're validating them. We can also, oh, thank you. Someone put the Vietnamese holidays in here. I will share that in just a second. Thanks, Mark. We can also validate those emotions. So we're going to name them, which in and of itself validates them. And then we're going to validate them even more. So we can say things like, instead of saying like, don't be mad, we can say, it makes sense that you'd feel mad about that. Or I wonder if other people might feel that way too. We can even just say, I see how that could be real. Or that could be a feeling that you have. We try not to say I understand, because for kids, it's hard for them to see how our experience aligns with theirs, even though we have walked through similar things because we're adults. It's not as helpful to say I understand as it is to say I hear you, or that makes sense to me. Okay? If you say I understand, no big deal. The goal again here is just the kids see that we are hearing what they're saying and we're listening well to what they're saying. After all that, if your kiddo is open to it, we'll talk about some ways to express or process those emotions to help kids calm down even more, feel less stress even more. Okay. I think one thing that makes empathy hard is that there's sometimes that we as caregivers realize that we do need to send some sort of messaging to our kids, right? We can't just always listen, though it's helpful to. Sometimes we find out about something that maybe our kiddos are misunderstanding, or maybe we know that they're really stressed out about this test, and we want to come to them and say, hey, I know you're stressed out. I'm here to support you, which goes a little beyond listening, right? So it's really important when we notice that kiddos are stressed about something and we want to have that conversation. One, we don't have to avoid that conversation, right? Two, that we do go into it thinking, okay, what's my goal? Is my goal to tell my kid how to pass the test? Because again, fixing the problem is not always as helpful as just showing that we're here to support them. And a lot of times we can't fix the problem, right? Or is my goal, whether my kid passes or fails, I hope they pass, whether they pass or fail the test, I'm not going anywhere. I still support them, right? Or is my goal, we all go through stressful, hard things, but they need to know that I'm still here for them after the fact or walking through that. So really thinking through, what do I want my kid to get out of this conversation? Maybe it's, I want you to feel safe and supported. Maybe it's, I just want to give you space to talk about it. Maybe you have questions, maybe you have some experiences you want to share, okay? Maybe you want to talk about your feelings. Maybe it's, I just want you to know that I'm here to talk about it if you want to, right? So it's okay to approach kids and say, hey, this happened in the news. How are you feeling about it? Try not to push. Kids typically need to know that they're free to answer without having to have the right answer or a answer, right? The goal here is less about solving the problem and more about supporting them. I also think a lot about this last question. So we can ask ourselves questions as we're going into these conversations. Things like what can I do in this conversation to help my kid feel supported? Or what's important information they should know? What might they be thinking in this situation? Okay. Or is there information that's incorrect that I can help them better understand? And to me, that part's really important because we as adults do have maybe advice that we want to offer that could help them feel our support. And so if we walk into it saying, I want to just offer this to you in case it's helpful, right? I want to tell you how I overcame this hard situation. That's going to help kids understand again, My goal is to support you, not fix the problem, not that you pass the test necessarily, right? My goal is to help support you. I'm hoping that makes sense. Any questions there yet? Cool. Super important to recognize when we're talking about support for kids and communication and empathy. What we're not saying is that our whole goal is to make kids feel good, because we can't, and that's not always helpful. What we are saying is our whole goal is to help kids know that we will walk through hard things with them. So as we enter into this conversation, maybe it's something we saw on the news, and we want to say, hey, I want to know what you feel about this or what you're thinking about this. My goal isn't to make you feel necessarily better. It is to make you know that we're walking through this together, and I'm going to do what I can to support you. Okay, those types of conversations can be really helpful for kiddos going through any sort of stress. All right, we have 2 more slides. How are we doing on time? Good? Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, we have 3 more slides. I lied. All right. The advice that the therapists that I work with that most parents tell me are the most is the most helpful is to say one of the 2 things. You don't have to talk to me, but I'm here if you need to. Hey, I saw something on the news that happened today. I'm wondering if you saw it too. You don't have to talk to me if you don't need to, but I'm here if you want to, right? Or hey, I know this test, the coming finals might be stressful for you. You don't have to talk to me if you don't need to, but I'm here if you do, okay? Or once a kiddo brings something up, we can say something like, do you want my advice or do you just want to talk? Okay. That way, again, we're helping kids get the support that fits where they're at in the moment. And it doesn't feel like we have some sort of agenda where we want to fix the problem for them or we have an expectation about how they manage this problem. We're just there to support them. All right. Last 2 slides. Coping strategies are important no matter what type of stress we're going through for adults or kids. These 2 slides could be their own conversation, so I'm just giving you the most important information. Kids need some go-to activities, we'll call them, to help diminish stress, as do adults. Spoiler alert, so do adults. So if we can help kids identify things that help them calm down, feel better, reduce stress, then in a moment they're feeling stressed, they have those tools, and we may just place them in front of them or mention them, and they will learn to do it on their own as well. Okay. I've even heard stories of teens who do this on such a regular basis that once mom or dad's really stressed out, they're like, okay, well, let's go do this. This is what I do when I'm stressed out, right? So kids are good at this. We just have to keep showing them, giving them the tools to do so. I named some main ones that can be helpful. A quiet or personal space for a kiddo, super helpful, whether they're young or a teen. Reading, drawing, writing. I heard somewhere that some kids really enjoy writing music or poetry, which not only helps calm them down, it also helps them process emotions, and it's engaging their brain, which is great. Any sort of hobby or favorite activity, could be going for a walk, could be playing an instrument, could be video games. I would say with some limits there. Of course, we don't want to have them just go to video games for hours at a time, but could be video games, calling or talking to someone, listening to music, being in nature, journaling. Again, remember what we said about validating emotions. The moment that I say how you're feeling, it's already going to help you start calming down. So I'm not going to tell you to say it. I'm going to say it to you. You're stressed out, right? I see that maybe you're kind of nervous about this. Just that is going to help kids feel more calm. Some sort of exercise or movement, especially if they can do that exercise or movement with a parent, right? If they want to, especially for young kids. So then we have support and some coping skills. Breathing or grounding, which we're going to talk about in just a second. And then for little kids, a comforting object can be really helpful. Even for adults, I have Play-Doh at my desk. So when I get really stressed out, I can kind of use that Play-Doh, and it helps me just get some movement in and calm my body down. Something I learned a while ago about the body-brain connection is that we can either calm our thoughts to calm our body, or calm our body to calm our thoughts. Both ways work. So whatever works better for the kiddo, whether that, for me, it's always movement. If I go move and calm my body down, my thoughts are going to follow it. Some kids may just have a mantra or something they say to help their brain stop thinking, or stressing out, and that helps calm their body as well. Questions there? All right, here's some examples for younger kids. Drinking some water, well, even for adults, drinking some water can be really helpful. eating a snack. A crunchy snack is going to help kids who are kind of isolating due to their stress wake back up. A chewy snack like gum or I'm trying to think like a gummy like gummy bear or a vitamin or something that's going to help calm their system down. So those are options. Physical touch like a hug, reading a book, holding a stuffed animal, blowing on a pinwheel. The reason that's helpful is because they're just breathing without realizing it, right? Using a fidget toy, again, that's the fingers, building something. We can't stress out and do puzzles. Our brain won't do it. So even giving a kiddo a puzzle will help their brain. Their brain has to calm down for them to be able to do it. So that's really helpful as well. And then rainbow breaths, basically kiddos make a rainbow. Take a deep breath, make a rainbow, and then exhale, go back down for the rainbow. They're also called rocket breaths as well. I'm sure people are familiar with the smell the flower, blow out a candle. Do that about 5 times. For older kids, you can see some similarities. Giving someone a hug, talking to someone, going for a walk, listening to music, hugging a stuffed animal, doing yoga, going for a walk, writing, can do some video games, drinking water. The key here is these are ideas, and it's great if you want to use them. More important, what do our kiddos say helps them? As long as it's a healthy coping strategy, it's a great go-to activity to do when they're feeling really stressed out. All right, last slide. I promise. I did add in an extra slide in there, I forgot. So I promise this is the last one. So again, what I said about our minds follow our bodies and our bodies follow our minds. We can kind of do some activities without thinking, without planning, to calm our bodies down, almost like we're tricking our bodies into being calm. So once kiddos are kind of familiar with this can be a really helpful thing to do. Breathing or meditating. Again, even just doing the smell a candle, I'm sorry, smell a flower, blow out a candle can be super, don't tell kids to smell candles, that's dangerous. Smell a flower, blow out a candle can be super helpful. Even I had a teenager who learned to use a paper bag to visual, you can see how you're breathing, and they gave it to dad when he was having a panic attack. Again, super helpful things for kiddos. They have apps that show like a circle getting bigger as you breathe in and getting smaller as you exhale out. Those are great activities. Things to be present that take even less time than breathing. Using your 5 senses. A lot of therapists will start with what are 5 things you can see? What are 4 things you can hear? 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Maybe you have water with you or coffee with you. For me, as an adult, I usually only need to do 1 of those things. So I can just fixate on 1 thing that's really colorful and just look at it for a few minutes and my body starts to calm down, right? Or when I'm listening to music, I'll try and only hear the guitar. My body starts to calm down. Not only does it calm down because I'm kind of distracting it, but also because it has to kind of calm down to really focus in on being present. So you can do the same thing going on a walk. Gratitude is a really cool, there's some really cool brain science around gratitude as well. When I say that I'm thankful for something, that increases oxytocin, which is the hormone for connection. So even if I'm by myself, I say I'm thankful for something, and my body is going to start producing more of the connection hormone, which makes me feel more connection, right? And as we know, support and connection help diminish stress. So even just talking about 1 thing we're thankful for can be really helpful. And then some people just need a distraction to break them out of their stress. So I think this would probably be really fun to try with kids, teens, counting backwards, spelling something, naming 5 things around you. So if I were to do it right now in my office, I have a mini piñata, I have a coffee mug, I have a phone, notebook, and I have 2 markers. That's going to just kind of break my brain out of the cycle of really being stressed out and thinking and start to calm it down. You can do the same thing with the category. So movies or vegetables or favorite foods, things like that. And those are kind of the stopping points to help your brain be distracted and then begin to calm down from there. I did skip the visualizing a relaxing or safe space. That's a great one. Relax or imagining the beach or a calm, quiet spot in a kiddo's room or at home. is very similar to just naming the emotion. It just starts to calm the body just in visualizing that. These are really great because they don't cost any money and they don't take any time, right? And if we as parents want to do them with kids, we should practice it ahead of time because in a moment that we're really stressed, it's harder for us to practice new things. So the more they practice it ahead of time, the more they can use it in their toolkit for being stressed and doing something that's super helpful for them to calm down. That was fast there at the end. I am gonna read really quick these. See, I should have written these down. Vietnamese holidays that we can celebrate for. Thanks again, Mark. June 1st, International Children's Day. June 28th, Vietnamese Family Day, and then August 19th, Remembrance Day. I realize now I'm probably reading those more for me than for you all, but I won't forget them now. If anyone has questions or comments, that's it. We did it.
Yeah, we have a question for you. So first question was, you want to be supportive as a parent, but maybe you had that freak out spaz moment already, with all the stress, right? It gets to parents and we want to do these things, but we don't always do that. So like what would be next steps, to try to repair?
That's a really great question. So is the question the kiddo has already kind of had the freak out moment, or parent has, or
I
both?
think you could go either way, really.
Either way. Okay. I'll start with kiddo. It's super helpful for kids to know that freak out moments are normal and a part of life and growing up, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? And so after the fact, we can do a lot of the same things that we talked about. Maybe a kiddo's calm down now and come in and say, "Hey, I noticed you had kind of a big reaction there." Notice I'm not saying you got angry or mad, though you could say that, right? But try not to be judgmental, not try not to have a judgment on it. I noticed you got really angry. Is there anything you need to talk about? Or I just want you to know that I'm here to support you. Let me know if you want to talk about it, okay? So that's going to help kids know that regardless of what the emotion is, regardless of what the reasoning is, I'm here to support you. If we as an adult have a breakdown, freak out moment, again, normal, part of being a human, um, and the best way to restore that relationship, right, or to help kids feel supported again is to apologize. Very hard, but coming in and saying, "Hey, I was really stressed out for whatever reason. I need you to know that reaction wasn't about you. It was me feeling really stressed or nervous. And I'm sorry I overreacted." And then this is a whole nother training, but we call these I messages. So if it's a reaction of as a parent about something a kiddo did that maybe wasn't the best for them, using an I message can really help kids understand that we're on the same team and we're both human. So let's say a kiddo skips class and we overreact. We come back later and we say, "Hey, I just get really nervous when you skip school because education is really important and I want you to be successful in life," right? So I'm making this about a team effort. I'm giving you the reason why. And then I'm saying, "I'm sorry, I probably could have reacted in a better way," right? Apologizing is a really great way to help kids feel support. Does that answer the question? Whoever asked it?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's
Okay.
great. Another question. You want to start asking your child these questions during these practices, but they're already in high school. How do you, I assume it's not too late, but is it too late? And how, like, where do you start?
Totally not too late. I would just start by asking them. I would say, "What do you do when you feel stressed out? What are?" Because if they're in high school, they probably have some mechanisms, and they can teach you. And then a great way to build that support is instead of me thinking of what to give you when you're stressed out, you already told me what helps, so I can reinforce that for them, right? So I would start there, and kind of see what comes from that.
Awesome. Okay, and last one. Parents have stress, and they, like you mentioned a lot, that kids need support from adults. Adults also need support from adults. What advice would you give for a parent that doesn't feel like they have a support network?
Thank you. Again, super important question, and it's a whole nother training. I think if adults finding the ways to care for themselves are the best ways for us to have the capacity to care for kids, right? A lot of the times we think of it here as like a window of tolerance. So if I'm practicing or helping myself be less stressed, my window's a lot more open. So when a kiddo goes through something stressful, I have a lot more capacity to support them. But if I'm going through a lot of stress, my window is really small. It's gonna be really easy for me to over or underreact because I don't have, as this individual is saying, that support or those ways to kind of de-stress, right? The whole idea behind self-care, which I don't love the word self-care, another training, is to be able to better serve and live alongside those I live with, right? So when I talk about self-care, I would encourage this person, if they don't feel like they have good connection or good support in themselves, kind of think through. I actually have a list in my phone of the people I can text if I need to know support. And they can't always drop everything and come talk to me, but they can give me a thumbs up, or they can say, hey, I'm here, I'm thinking about you. Working into the schedule, maybe a phone call or a once a month coffee date, anything that really feels like it's making that connection. And it might be hard at first. The thing about connection is sometimes before we feel the support, getting out of ourselves can be help even before it feels like a supportive relationship. Of course, we don't want it to be a relationship that's damaging, but if it takes some time to build those relationships, that's going to be helpful too for stress. And then think through those things. Maybe they're not social support necessarily. Think through those things that help you feel better as an adult when you're stressed out, and maybe try and build those in. Last thing that's super helpful, I would say therapy. I think not all of us have a great relationship with therapy. I grew up with not a great relationship with therapy. And I'm learning that really the idea behind therapy is that everyone not only deserves but needs someone to talk to on a regular basis, and to have someone once a week, every couple weeks, to kind of talk about what's good, what's bad, what's hard. And I think of them a lot like a grandma. They're not going to judge me, but they are going to offer me some advice. And it turns out my grandma may not have been expert on these things, but therapists are. And so I'd encourage you to, I'm happy to share some places that can help with therapy for adults as well. That might just be a good starting point, right? Sorry, that was a lot.
Awesome. No, thank you. Any other questions here? Okay. Great. And so Kat, thank you so much for sharing all that awesome information. I learned a lot. I hope that you guys did as well. To close us out, like I mentioned, this is our last session for the summer for families. So thank you for those of you that are here with us for that today. I'm going to share my screen and let you know what you can do over the summer while you're waiting for Face University to come back. We do have our Articulate courses. We have 3 of them launched. These are go at your own pace Face University sessions. The options are social media safety and digital literacy. So you can look at some differences between primary and secondary education, your elementary schoolers or your high schoolers, and how to keep them safe, and media smart tips online. We have homework help for parents. That's going to be picking a track, kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. It's going to give you advice on curriculum, study tips, and resources sorted by age group. Lastly, we just launched our Summer Slide. So this is Summer Slide is a process where kids can lose a lot of learning over the summer if they're not continuing to practice. How to avoid that is we want to be reading with our kids. We want to be getting them some educational opportunities. So this is going to give you some tips on how to keep that learning going and free resources around Denver. All 3 of these courses are available currently in Vietnamese, Spanish. They will be available in all languages in just about a week. So lastly, we have our registration here for that. You can use that QR code to sign up. It just asks for a quick name and email. I'll also drop the link in the chat for you to sign up. And your feedback is super important. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the chat. And then Marissa Palmer, you are the one person with us on Zoom. So you'll be our winner for tonight. Thank you for those of you on YouTube and Facebook. Join us for a live session if you want to win some tickets for educational experiences around Denver. And that will close us up. If there's any last questions, feel free to stay here.